I have dogs all around me right now, and that's okay. Let's talk about creativity. Creativity, the way that most people think about it, is a myth. It doesn't really exist in the context that most people think about it. Creativity is a predictable product if you approach it the right way. And let me explain. Let's start with the definitions so that we're all on the same page. Webster's says that it's the art of being creative, which is no help at all. Not really, it's useless. So dictionary.com talks about creativity being a state where you where you are creative, and that making of new things, and that's a start. But yeah, how do you tap into this thing that everybody's so woo-woo about? People don't give you, in most cases, concrete ways to be creative. How do you tap into that? And I'm going to get to that, but I want to talk about a few things first. Relevant things. I've been a professional creative person for longer than I care to admit right now. Maybe longer than some of you have been alive, and that's okay. I started freelancing as a writer and graphic designer back in 1991. So I know a little something about being creative right now. And that's an amazing skill to have. But I'm not unique. In fact, if you look at successful creative people in any field, whether they're woodworkers, they're writers, they're actors, they're whomever, you're going to find that the approach is generally the same for all of them. And it's just hard work. So you think of someone like a Stephen King, you think of Ernest Hemingway, Ringo Starr. I love the new Beatles movie, Jackson's reimagining of the film footage that became originally Let It Be in the new Beatles documentary that was recently released. And one of the things that comes through about Ringo is that Ringo treated this like a job, the same way that Stephen King is reputedly at the typewriter every single day, the way that Hemingway would wake up in the morning before all chaos in his life would break loose, and in those hours right around sunrise, he would get as much writing done as he could at his manual typewriter. You show up and you do the work, but it's not that simple. If it was that simple, everyone would just say, well, it's creativity, just go to work. The example I've loved for years and years comes from Douglas Hofstadter and his book Metamagical Themas. And it's a fantastic book. It's from the 1980s. It's something I read in college. And he talks about science. And for what it's worth, the book is about science and consciousness and social interactions and creating systems that can be emulated with technology. So one of the things that Hofstadter talks about is this idea that if you imagine this metaphor of science as a skyscraper, on the very base bottom floors, there's something you might call common sense, observable phenomena. You know, we look at something and go, oh, well, if I pick something up and I drop it, it goes down. You know, leaves fall down, apples fall down. You know, we're nowhere near Newton inventing calculus and understanding gravity. This is just basic, observable, common sense. This is the base floor. And when you start adding these observations to one another, and you start building on them, you add complexity. And we might start calling that rare sense. If we started with common sense, now this is rare sense. And we keep applying that rare sense floor after floor of this huge building. And that's what we eventually call science. And you might say mathematics as well. And where this came back to me was when I was teaching graphic design. So this struck me very deeply. And it's like, you know, this is exactly right. And right across the street from the science tower is the creativity tower. And this is what I want to get across. On the very base floor, what we seek, what is innate in the human experience for everybody, unless you have severe cognitive deficits, what is ubiquitous for all of humanity is this desire to seek out novelty, something new. It's what kept us alive when we were living closer to nature. You know, it's this attraction to, oh, hey, that tree could fall on my head, I better move out of the way. It's, oh, there's a pair of eyes in those bushes. There's a very large creature and it's following me step for step and stalking me. And I notice this thing. This is something out of my ordinary view, so I notice this thing. And it attracts me. And that's novelty. And that's the very base level. And so, as George Carlin once said, the thing about America is, if you nail two things together that have never been nailed together before, some poor schmo out there is going to buy it. He didn't say poor schmo, but considering who might tune into this, we'll go with poor schmo. And that's that desire for creativity, for novelty, for something new. And so, as a species, as the human race, as interested human beings in just the world around us, we're always looking for that new experience. And so we start applying these new experiences one to another, and then you go, oh, hey, you say to yourself, wow, hey, here's this new thing, and I bet I can use that. I can take this fresh fruit from my mind, and I can put it with this other thing that I have, or that I'm doing, or that I want. And I can stick these two things together. And that is fundamentally what creativity is. So if somebody comes to me and says, well, I'm just not creative. Well, that's a bunch of malarkey. That's just a bill of goods that somebody sold you that wanted to shut you down. Neil deGrasse Tyson, probably one of the best known, if not best, science educators of our time. He talks about children being natural scientists. And believe it's Betty Edwards, who's the author of Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, says something similar about children in terms of art. This idea that, that Edwards talks about children being great artists and willing to explore, and Neil deGrasse Tyson talking them all being, having boundless curiosity and being natural scientists. They're both getting to the same point. And that is, until somebody filters us and says, well, this is socially acceptable and that's not socially acceptable, and you do it this way, not this way, that the opportunities of perception, the opportunities for creation are completely unbounded. And the reason that most people, and I really do believe it's probably most people, the reason that most people can't draw a lick past 4th or 5th grade is because somebody says, well, that's not ever going to hang in an art gallery. You're wasting your time with that. Well, forget that. And the same thing is true for science, and especially girls in science, and but all kinds of people with mathematics and science and these topics, which are really fundamental to our existence. The fundamental questioning of the world around us is that somewhere in school somebody shut that switch off. So I'm here to tell you that you do have the ability to be fully creative. You can do anything you want. So getting back to the idea of, somebody says, well, hey, that's never going to end up in an art gallery. So what? Look, I have got the butt ugliest table anyone has ever made. It's been in use in my house probably close to 20 years. And I'm telling you, this thing it's a bunch of 2x4s and nails, and it sits by the entrance to my kitchen from my garage. But it's perfectly functional. And it's there as a reminder to me that this is where I started working with wood. And I'm by no means a great woodworker. I would say I'm an adequate hack. There are days when I still struggle to get things square. And yet, I've made some very nice things. I've made some things that I'm very proud of. And I've made a number of things that I know get oohs and ahs when people see them. And boy, that's wonderful. I've made a lot of things I've made stuff that sucks. I've made a lot of things that suck. And you shouldn't be afraid of that. I'm also a scout leader. And one of the things we say frequently about scouting is that scouting is a safe place to fail. We put young people in charge, and we relish seeing the new, inventive, creative ways that young people will find to do things wrong. As a leader, let me tell you, it's one of the great joys is watching young people get it wrong. Because what follows getting it wrong is the insight that there is somebody here who, if I only ask, will happily show me how to do it right. But it's not our job to jump in and correct that behavior. It's our job to be there, to be supportive, and to laugh with them when it's appropriate to laugh with them, not to laugh at them. It's one of the things that we frequently dissociate ourselves. We separate ourselves from the safety of failure. It's okay. I think one of the best things you can do as a creative person is to learn from your mistakes and to invite exercises that encourage you to make that easy for you, because in that same process you will make discoveries that are amazing. I mean, just wow, I didn't know I could do that, or I didn't know that would happen. You know, it's very similar to the scientific process, but it's art. And so we have this building, and it's, you know, we start with basic novelty and curiosity, and it goes all the way up to art. And the way we get there is frequently by screwing up. I like to pick a theme, if you will. You know, if you make buttons, my God, I want you to spend a month or a year making a button a day. If you're making tables, if you're making whatever this is, if you're making cutting boards, make a cutting board a day. Do something different every single day. Don't make the same cutting board every day. That's production. I want you to reinvent that thing every single day, and accept the days when you get to the end of the day and hopefully you followed all your safety procedures and there's no new Band-Aids, thank God, and certainly no amputations, no serious injury, no huge financial loss from this, but that you've done something different. And even though you thought you were going somewhere interesting, it's an utter failure. Just do that every day for a month. Do it every day for a year. By the time you're done, you will know what works and what doesn't work. And you'll know it fundamentally in your bones. You'll be able to do this in your sleep. You probably will find yourself dreaming about this stuff. And that's where I think we all want to be. I've made a lot of bookcases. I've got things that I know were passable beginner bookcases. I have things that are well-made bookcases. I have some creative ideas I have pursued, and everybody who has seen it, except me, tells me, why in God's name did you do that? And again, it's part of this philosophy is that it's okay to screw up. It's okay to have a body of work that is not perfect. In fact, not only is it not perfect, it is far from perfect. I don't want to just tell you that it's okay if something goes wrong. Now, I want you to suck. There's a woodworker whose videos I like to watch, and he's been advertising a workshop, and his headline is, "Stop making furniture that sucks." I'm going to give you the absolute opposite advice. Make terrible furniture. Make it without apology, without any second thought about the fact that you've made something terrible, possibly unusable, uncomfortable, ineffective joinery, can't cut straight. Embrace it. Embrace the chaos. Because you're going to get better. To be creatively successful, you really want to do two things. You want to create with abandon. Create without the filter, without the fear of doing things that suck. And then I want you to do something else. They tell writers frequently, they tell writers, to be a good writer, you need to read. I mean, you need to read everything, you know. read cereal boxes, but read Shakespeare, read, you know, Hemingway, read everything. Read Flannery O'Connor, though I don't much care for it. Read the Bronte sisters. Read everything. You know, read Arthur C. Clarke and Isaac Asimov and, you know, whomever. Just read, and it gets into your brain, and you find that you will approach your writing differently. And again, this isn't writing advice. This is not a writing channel. This is a woodworking channel. But the same rule applies. This past spring, I was in London and had the great pleasure of going to the Victoria and Albert Museum and looking at their furniture collection, and everything from classical and very ornate furniture to a surprisingly wonderful collection of modern furniture. It was just a really wonderful collection. And there's at least one piece that I plan to, if not reproduce, riff on the idea sometime very soon. Hopefully have a build video for it. But it's the same thing. If you're writing, you read. If you're doing woodworking, look at furniture. Look at stuff that turns you on. You don't want to go into a museum and start picking up the display pieces. That can cause troubles, I'm pretty sure. But you do want to go places and see things, and you know, if you are in the IKEA, take something off the shelf, see how it's put together. Go look at furniture. Go to furniture stores, you know, but also go into people's homes and, you know, friends' homes and offices and wherever you are, and look at items. You know, go into stores where wooden handmade items are sold, and go, you know, hey, how's this thing put together? And do that deconstruction. It's not rocket science. It really isn't. You know, you see box joints, you see miter joints, you see dowel joints, and you start seeing where things were layered on. Things that looked very carved really aren't, and they're just, you know, oftentimes you've got very basic structures, and they're just ornamented, and you know, lovely things are done, and you can look at them and you go, oh, that's how that works. That's what makes that thing tick. And then you can go home and you can make a bad version of it, and then you can make a better version of it, and then you can eventually do something that's even nicer. I saw an essay about a photographer, wonderful piece, talking about how in his early career he was accused of copying the style of another well-known photographer. And you see in the early work, it's very derivative work. And eventually it's a style the artist stuck with and eventually made it his own. You look at an artist like Johnny Cash, you know, turning to a different medium altogether. And, you know, he takes a song like Hurt, and the original author, I believe it's Trent Reznor, says, you know, it's not my song anymore, it's his. He made it, and it's, in his opinion, the Johnny Cash version is unparalleled. And you get there by doing stuff that's not great. And eventually you start doing great, and you start having intuition about better choices. And the path to creativity is allowing yourself bad choices. You know, see what happens when you do it this way. Hey, see why certain things don't work. do things that people tell you not to do. And you're going to discover one of two things, maybe even something else. But more than likely, you're going to discover either, oh, wow, there's a really good reason why they tell you not to do that. The other thing you find out is people tell you not to do it because it's just not done. There's no reason. It's just people just don't do it. And you do it, and it works for you, and you go, well, that was great. Why isn't everybody else doing it? Well, the answer is people get convinced that because the common wisdom is don't do that, it shouldn't be done. Well, no, forget that. Along those lines, there's a wonderful story about two sisters who talk about preparing the Thanksgiving turkey, and part of their ongoing family tradition is they always cut the turkey in half before roasting it. And two sisters get to talking and say, well, I've always wondered, why do we cut the turkey in half? And the other sister says, well, I don't know. We should ask Mom, because that's the way Mom made it. And they ask Mom, and they say, I don't know why you do it. I did it because my oven wasn't big enough for the whole turkey. You don't want to be there. That's as bad, even if it's a great turkey, or even if it's a great piece of woodworking. You don't want to get there without having explored your possibilities. And so here I am, a passable woodworker, and a few good stories. But I'm willing to explore, and I'm willing to screw up. And maybe you'll see some of those. I will tell you, I've been at this for quite a while. I've been at this for over a year of trying to produce video content, and I'm just now getting a few pieces near finished. And this piece specifically is being done now because something failed terribly. And I think I have a way to fix it, but it's not going to happen as quickly as just recording this today. And this video is something I had planned to do anyway. So I've been producing stuff that wasn't great, and that's okay. And now that I have some content which may or may not suck, it's good enough to move forward. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to all move forward together. So subscribe, follow me on whatever platform you like, whether it's Threads or Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or Patreon. Find somewhere you like. If I really turn you on, hey, become a Patreon subscriber. I'd love that. A YouTube subscriber is wonderful. Say hi, leave a comment. Tell me I suck. It's okay. Trolls are welcome. You just drive up my interaction stats. But like I said, I've been a professional creative for a long time. I've had people tell me that things suck when they clearly did not. And yeah. And so it's okay. And you're not going to hurt my feelings. And maybe we'll discover something together over time. And that's my hope, is that we'll discover some really cool woodworking. I'm going to get to those reproduction pieces in a few months. I have other projects ahead of that right now. I look forward to seeing you. Thank you. I'll catch you on the next video.